The crackling sounds of a new roast.
The aroma of the coffee is going to burst throughout the room. You cannot deny this light roast. That's a true light roast.
Each package sealed with care. What lies behind the hard work of these bags? A desire for change and empowerment.
Through faith and vision and entrepreneurship, the equity and story and opportunities are going to be restored to the people who probably didn't get a chance or probably had that chance, but it been deprived from them in certain type of way because of what they was getting into.
Those opportunities are what a new business, Deep Time Coffee, has started delivering.
What we are trying to do is have this be a coffee roasting social enterprise that is committed to folks impacted by incarceration. So we have a violence prevention piece, which is for youth and young adults who are at risk of incarceration because they're from a low-income, high-crime area.
The North Carolina Department of Commerce found that formerly incarcerated individuals experience poor employment and wage-earning outcomes. In 2021, 49% of former inmates were employed within 1 year after exiting prison. That's down from 62% about 2 decades ago. Reverend Mailman has spent years efforting to help change those numbers.
There's not one thing that's going to end homelessness or end recidivism. It has to be, us coming together as a community and collaborating on many different fronts. This feels like a critical piece that's missing right now.
Underwood has been impacted by incarceration and knows Deep Time was the right fit for him.
So I had to be reassured over and over and over again to give me that confidence to step out here and do the work that I'm doing right now.
That's why being a mentor is extremely important to him, knowing the impact this mission can have.
They don't have nobody to believe in them and give them hope, and that's where we come in now. So with giving them hope on a new life.
We take our mission super seriously because we believe that every single person on this earth is just riddled with potential.
A tradition Chanel Feather holds on to dearly.
Dance is where I feel the most like myself.
And holds on to tightly.
Especially with indigenous dances, with our ancestral dances. It even takes that and magnifies it by a million for me. The recent past, in America, indigenous people weren't able to do that and teach our younger generations. It was restricted.
Feather's identity as an enrolled member of the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians is extremely important to her.
That's hello.
And what led her to help contribute to rebranding the museum to share their story. For 75 years, the museum on the Qualla boundary was called the Museum of the Cherokee Indian, and from now on will be the Museum of the Cherokee People.
We're sharing a piece of ourselves with you, and we're bringing you into a sacred place, and that's exactly what it means here, is you're coming into our home.
The rebranding started with a program called Disruption.
What we did was we took off 25% of things that were on display. The 25% that we took off were sacred, ceremonial, traditional, and burial items that should have never been on display. And we've taken those pieces off and then we replaced them with contemporary art created by Cherokee people.
And Disruption is only the beginning.
First steps into starting to reclaim this space and allowing the telling of truth from our perspective by saying, this is what we will allow you to see. And we're going to show you the things that we haven't been able to talk about.
Giving the Cherokee people their own power to tell their past and present stories.
We didn't have power of what was being shown before. It felt like that in many ways. And I'm not just talking about in the last 25 years, but I'm talking about for generations. For generations, we've had to be reprogrammed. This is how you should talk. This is what clothes you should wear. You can't wear your hair long.
Every dance, every song, and every change helps Feather reclaim her own story.
And to display what we're creating and how we've evolved to this point, to the 21st century, and how our culture exists today. That makes me proud to be able to display that, even if it's just a fraction right now of how we can do that.
Bill Pallas lives a step away from the Pisgah National Forest.
Every morning, I feel, how in the world did I be so fortunate that I was able to get by this place and make this my home for many decades.
Running through it gives his mind and body an outlet.
I think I get a lot of my best thoughts and ideas.
But Pallas thought his run on July 7th was nearly his last.
I realized, this is not a good situation.
He turned the corner on a path he's been on many times before.
When her claws, when they ripped across my face, they were like 3-inch long razor blades. Was it happening so fast, or did time stand still?
It turns out he unknowingly ended up between a black bear and her cub.
I went to hit her in the face to try to back her off, and it turns out she opened her mouth. That's where my arm went into her mouth.
As quickly as it started, it was over. The bear and her cub took off after knocking Pallas to the ground.
I stopped to just survey what kind of shape I was in, and that's when I realized just blood was just pouring everywhere.
He had to travel 2 miles back home alone.
A very odd voice said, "Marion, are you here?" And I said, "I'm here." And he said, "I need you to come here now." So it was very eerie.
His partner Marion discovered he had suffered injuries to his face, chest, and arm.
And that's where they sewed my finger into my finger back together.
And despite the frightening encounter, he remained upbeat.
He was the best sport and like the funniest guy in the emergency room. He was awake and he said, "I'm going to go up there and see if I can find my hat and my iPod."
The bear had knocked my iPod off.
Bears aren't uncommon in this area. So far this year, the North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission has had 489 bear-related calls. Buncombe County typically makes up about a third of the calls every year. As for Pallas, as his scars heal up, he says he plans to continue living his life the same as before, running a trout farm and going on runs.
Nothing's changed. Today is exactly like it was a month ago for me.